Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video every single morning to help you catch up with things that you might have missed out on whilst you were getting with some rest time. And well, let's cut to it straight away. Let's go in and delve deep into some of the news that you might have missed out on whilst you were getting some rest. And this is a big one to start. A lot of you would be looking forward to the 50-20I between India and Australia. It could potentially be a series leveling or a series winning match depending on who wins. But there is a rain threat in that particular match as well. In fact, there is a 55% chance of rain in Brisbane during Saturday, and a lot of it is during the evening time. So one really hopes that the match isn't impacted by rain and we don't have a start-stop kind of an affair, which has happened on a couple of occasions during this white ball tour that India have been having down under. But don't be surprised if it does happen. The weather has been a little unpredictable, and there is a good chance of rain. Is being predicted that it could last for about an hour if it really comes, which, well, not really good news considering it's a T20I match and the amount of time you'd have for actually reserve time and whatnot would be less. More cricket news, and this one is another concerning one, but for another series. Rishabh Pant actually ended up retiring hurt during the second India versus South Africa unofficial test match. He was batting in the second innings and ended up getting struck twice, once on the arm and the second time on the groin, and actually ended up retiring hurt. Now one really hopes that this is just a precautionary measure and that there's nothing wrong, because remember, Pant is just coming back from a long injury layoff and one wouldn't really want him to end up missing out on the test matches with an injury, because again, he's that kind of X-factor player who can take the game away from anyone and should be a sure shot starter when it comes to test cricket. Another interesting bit of news, and these two things are centered around the India-Australia series. There's been a lot of debate about Sanju Samson and the fact that he seems to be gently being nudged away from the team, and one player who's actually shared an opinion on that is Mohammed Kaif. He said that Sanju has been overshadowed for two reasons. One is that Gill ended up coming back into the squad, and because he's the vice captain now and they're grooming him to become a future leader, then he ends up getting to open because that's the position he's best at. But because of that, Sanju's had to go lower down the order, a place where he's not best suited. And he also said that if they're looking at someone who can bat according to position, then someone like Jitesh should get preference, because again, he's someone who does bat lower down the order, unlike a Sanju, and that's why Samson is being overshadowed. Whether or not that's fair is a whole different discussion, but this is something that we have been saying a lot when it comes to Gill's ascension to an automatic T20I slot. For what reason, we all know it is just leadership grooming. On pure ability, should he deserve to be there? I'd say probably not. Another bit of news, and this is one more which is more on the positive side really. Jasprit Bumrah is on the verge of a massive milestone in the India versus Australia T20I. What is that milestone? If he gets a few more wickets, I think he needs maybe one or two more wickets, he will then become the first ever Indian bowler to have taken at least 100 wickets across all three formats. And yes, there actually is no other bowler who's managed to accomplish that. So that'll be a major first and yet another major feather in the already feathered hat of Jasprit Bumrah. This time we're going also with the news that a little bit on the negative side. The Supreme Court of India has sent a notice to Indian cricketer Mohammed Shami over a demand of increase of alimony from his estranged ex-wife Haseen Jahan. Now this is something that's come back in the news cycle once again. You remember that she was granted an alimony of rupees 4 lakhs, which she, even at the time of getting it, had said was not enough because she would need more money to sustain the kind of lifestyle for her daughter that Shami himself lives. Of course, whether or not that's something that is needed in the first place is fairly debatable, but well, it is what it is, and an SC notice has been sent to Shami. Focusing now on sports beyond cricket, and a bit of a bad news if you are an Indian football fan. The AIFF has received no bids for the ISL broadcast rights after the first deadline had passed, and this is very bad news when you're thinking about it, because if there are no takers in the current circumstances for the broadcast rights, without any broadcast partners, the ISL has no future. That's just the reality of it. And if there is no ISL, then there's no larger Indian football ecosystem, because that is your top flight league. So that is a big concern, and one really hopes that they can tweak things around a little bit and potentially try and get a broadcast partner on board, because don't forget, their relationship with Star has come to an end thanks to, of course, Football Sports Development Limited and their master rights agreement ending up expiring. So it's a very complicated issue, but one that hopefully trends towards a positive resolution, because so far there's not been much to cheer about when it comes to this entire saga. More football news, and if you're a Manchester City or Pep Guardiola fan, this is a big one. He's set to manage his 1,000th game this weekend in professional football when City end up taking on Liverpool. That's a massive accomplishment, and once again really just highlights the kind of career that Pep has had. Yes, he's managed at top clubs and he's won a lot of trophies, but the longevity that he's also had, insane. And the fact that he's been at City as long, still been successful. 1,000 game against Liverpool of all teams, you can say it was meant to be, because they've been perhaps his biggest and best rivals when it comes to English football as a whole. Some F1 news now, and Lando Norris of McLaren, well, good news for him, because he got the Brazilian GP sprint race pole position. Remember, this is a sprint race weekend, so there'll be a sprint race and there'll be a main race. For the sprint race, Lando's on pole just ahead of Mercedes rookie Kimi and Tonelli. And Oscar Piastri, the other McLaren driver, still very much in the title fight in third position. The bad news, if you're a Verstappen fan, Verstappen was only 6th on the grid, so will need to actually fight back and potentially get through a few drivers if he is to make some sort of a dent during the sprint race. Now, obviously, the number of points you get in a sprint, nowhere close to what you would get if you are winning the main race, but points are still points, and given how fine the margins are, you'd argue that every point matters. Badminton news now, and Tai Tzu Ying, one of probably the better players of this generation, ended up announcing her retirement, and there was a touching tribute that was paid to her by her former rival in PV Sindhu. And Sindhu, the Indian badminton superstar, said that, listen, I'm going to be honest, I hated playing against you, but the kind of friendship that we formed off the court, the quiet friendship and the moments we shared, the memories we shared, does make me very nostalgic at the fact that you are now calling it quits. And the fact that players of my generation are reaching a point of retirement is something that's very hard to take. Obviously, Tai Tzu Ying is someone who troubled Sindhu a lot, so Sindhu saying that she hated playing against her, not really a big surprise, but I mean, it is what it is, and it's a nice tribute, really. Obviously, a rival retiring is something that will evoke some sort of memories and nostalgia from a player. Last bit of news, and this time switching to another racket sport in tennis. Come Sunday, the ATP Finals will be getting underway, and all eyes are on two names, understandably. Three, really, if you count the third. There's Yannick Sinner, there's Carlos Alcaraz, and of course Novak Djokovic, who are seen as the key favourites for the year end. Of course, Novak has been in good form until he comes up against one of Alcaraz or Sinner. That has been the general trend this year for Grand Slam. So the expectation is that the final of the ATP Finals could once again be seeing Sinner versus Alcaraz. If that happens, woof, that'll be one match worth watching out for. And again, truth be told, considering the way they've been battling each other this year, it'll be really fun to watch. But that's it from this edition of the Morning Wrap. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, X and Facebook, and stay tuned for more such videos throughout the day from the world of sport.